right, we'll go ahead and come back to open session. Mr. Splendario, do we have anything to report from closed session?
Nothing to report tonight, thank you.
All right, so there we go. Let's go ahead and officially call the meeting to order and do a roll call.
Vice Mayor Reed, Councilmember Pratton.
Here.
Councilmember Sandu.
Here.
Councilmember Farmer.
Here.
Mayor Rodriguez.
Here. If you could all stand with me and for a silent prayer and flag salute. Salute pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, can you read the replay statement?
This meeting of the Galt City Council is recorded with closed captioning. The recording will be cablecast on Metro Cable Channel 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast and DirecTV UVerse cable systems. The recording will also be video streamed at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting replays Friday, June 5th at 9 a.m. and Saturday, June 6th at 9 a.m. on Metro Cable Channel 14. Once posted, the recording of this meeting can be viewed on demand at youtube.com/MetroCable14.
Thank you. Are there any agenda additions and or deletions? No? Okay. All right, let's go ahead and start with item G, presentations. And I'm going to flub the way this is said, so you're going to correct me when we get down there. We have a proclamation for familial adenomatous polyposis, and I've totally messed it up, Awareness Week. And Mr. Dan. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read this. Is the proclamation from by the City of Galt. FAP Awareness Week is June 14th through the 20th. So whereas APC-associated polyposis, which includes familial, see here, you say it for me when it gets done.
Familial adenomatous polyposis.
Thank you. A hereditary condition that results in high number of polyps developing within the colon and rectum significantly increases an individual's risk of colorectal cancer. And whereas genetic changes in the APC gene related to FAP lead to the development of hundreds of polyps within the colon, frequently beginning during an individual's teenage years, which if left untreated leads to cancer developing and on average by age 39. And whereas, say that word for me.
Which one?
Attenuated.
Attenuated familial adenomatous polyposis.
Thank you. Is a variant of the condition which causes fewer polyps to develop at a later age with an average age of cancer diagnosis of 55 when left untreated. And whereas undiagnosed FAP or AFAP can increase the risk of cancer to develop in the stomach, small intestine, liver, brain, thyroid, and pancreas, and can cause other health conditions such as osteomas, correct? Yeah, osteomas and desmoid tumors. And whereas having a sibling, parent, or child with condition increases an individual's risk of FAP or AFAP, Knowing your family health history and discussing it with your healthcare provider can help determine if genetic counseling and/or genetic testing would be appropriate. And whereas understanding your risk for FAP or AFAP can help healthcare providers determine an appropriate treatment and screening protocol for their prevention or early detection of colorectal and other cancers. And whereas during this week, Stanford University Department of Health and Human Services joins with Stanford Cancer Genetics and Genomics. I did take English in high school. I'm sorry. This wasn't in my English class. And I didn't go to Stanford. So, and Stanford Cancer Center to raise awareness of FAP and AFAP. California residents are encouraged to gather their family health history and share this information with their healthcare provider for early screening and preventative cancers associated with these conditions. And now, whereas the City of Galt does hereby proclaim June 14th through 20th, 2026 as FAP Awareness Week in California. And I'm going to let Dan speak a little bit, but I just want to put out there, I know I was kind of silly over this, but this is really serious. All health conditions are really serious. So I'm hoping people do take this seriously, whether it's this condition or other symptoms that people are having, that they actually speak with family members and see if there's something going on within the family that doctors and other people that can actually do something about it and get ahead of it. But Dan, you...
Thank you. Mayor Rodriguez and City Council members, thank you for sponsoring this proclamation request. And I wanted to thank my Veterans of Galt members here, Joyce, my ostomy nurse from the VA, who's now retired. She's been my ostomy nurse for the last 10 years. And then Monica, member of the Senior Water Aerobics, and I'm loving that. But yeah, I'm retired from the Navy, Operation Desert Storm, Enduring Iraqi Freedom veteran. I served 4 deployments to the Persian Gulf, 3 on ships, and I retired at 43 years old. And the first thing at the VA healthcare system, first thing my primary care doctor said was, when you turn 50, we recommend you schedule a colonoscopy. I said, sure, put it on the book. So I turned 50, scheduled it, had my first and only colonoscopy, found 100 polyps embedded throughout my colon, rectum, and anus. As a result, I underwent DNA testing to confirm I had the APC mutation. So I immediately underwent surgery to remove my colon, rectum, and anus. I have a permanent ileostomy. And I go through annual routine endoscopic surveillance. And 5 years ago, Stanford did a surgery to spare my pancreas from this mutation. And I've been asymptomatic this whole journey up until 2 months ago. Now I'm anemic. So go figure, right? So we just have to figure out what's going on. So I have to go back to Palo Alto next week. And then I'll be going to Stanford Digestive Health in August to see another GI doctor who specializes in the mutation. And as a result of my time at Stanford as a patient, I was invited to be a live case presentation for the Stanford School of Medicine for the Molecular Foundations of Medicine and the genetics counseling course. So I'll be, and then Senator Neal has sponsored this request. So we're going to have a Senate resolution on the 11th of June. So we'll be at the state capitol for that. And we've decided, I had 2 colleagues, we decided we have FAP. They have family history. I have no family history. I'm the only one. So I'm a team player. I took it for the whole family. So the 3rd week of June, we decided to have as an FAP Awareness Week. So familial adenomatous polyposis is the mutation everyone would know about. I mean, it impacts less than 1% of the population. And attenuated FAP is what I actually have. It's a subvariant of FAP. So attenuated FAP is estimated to impact less than 0.03% of the global population. So I'm trying to help medical students, medical GI doctors to learn more about this mutation and use me as a live case presentation. So I'd just like to educate the general public about this as well. But thank you very much. And I have a mantra I made, which is a positive spin on a bleak diagnosis. And that's always forge ahead with a purpose. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the second presentation, recognition of Galt Police Department and Cosumnes Fire District, and we have a guest speaker, Ellen Kim.
I asked Mayor Rodriguez to organize this to say thank you. My husband, get it together here. On February 28th, my husband experienced VFib. And the chances of surviving that are less than 3%. I've worked in the medical field for many years. I actually worked with some of the fire department, what we would call the old timers, or the more seasoned people. And the response that came was overwhelming. You can work on somebody in an emergency setting, numerous times, but when you're the one that's on the other end of it, it's a lot different. And it was due to the quick response, in my opinion, and medical opinion, the quick response from the fire and police department, and the care and kindness that was shown to me and my family during this time. I can never repay you guys for that, but I do know, having worked in this environment, that you always hear the negative outcomes, and I wanted you guys to know that there's a positive outcome in this, and that you guys work hard every day, and a lot of times you don't get the recognition you deserve. And we wanted to, as our family, say thank you. And it's funny, I worked with Chris when he first started his career in the ER at Kaiser. So having a familiar face show up was very much appreciated. And I have to say, I don't remember a lot, but it kind of on a humorous anecdote, one of the officers that responded, the first ones that responded, my husband was on the couch, and I got him on the ground and was doing CPR, and I think it might have been you that came in and literally pulled our couch. It looked like he just took one hand, and our couches are heavy. And I just remember them being flung aside, and I thought, okay, I think we got it under control here. But again, we want to say thank you for being there and responding, and never doubt that you make a difference in what you do. And we want to thank you. I would love to, I've been CPR certified since I was 16 years old. I would love to see Galt, through the fire department, the police department, and corrections, which my husband works for, come together and have an annual CPR day for the community so that people can have access to that easily and be able to hopefully never have to use it for an emergency, but to know that you can do it if you have to. And so, again, thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you for sharing the story. Sure. Boy.
I just didn't want to be left out. So I'm the 6'2", 260-pound guy that my wife had to throw on the ground because I feel some of the bruises. I just wanted to thank you guys that you didn't break my ribs because that would have been horrible. 3 years ago in May, I had a triple bypass, and that's just the stress of working in corrections. I went to the second academy ever here in 1983, and It's been I've been here a long time, and now I'm being forced to retire. But I know it went through a lot, and I'm grateful for the quick response, and especially my wife, who normally goes out in the backyard and works in the yard, but her leg was hurting her, so she happened to be sitting next to me when this happened. But I am grateful and appreciative, and I thank you very much.
Yeah, Ellen and Ron, you want to come up for a photo? And
You guys, your team.
so quick question, Ellen, is the couch okay? Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I just want to thank the fire department, obviously my staff, for the work that they did that night. When I got the request to find out, who was on scene and what was happening, myself and Chris's wife reviewed our body-worn camera, and what I saw was remarkable teamwork for the Galt Police Department, who was there and engaged in CPR for, I think, 27 minutes in total before transport. Obviously, fire came in and did their thing. And I've said it a lot, sort of offline. The relationship for the line staff between the fire department and the Galt Police Department within this community is an amazing and special relationship that you all have. And so from myself, I do thank you for all your hard work. I know Officer Tamori, who was not one of the three that performed the CPR, like Officer Robeson and Spinelli and Steele, he was with some family members out front. So it was a total team effort, and I do appreciate the work that everybody did and saved a life and got to hear the story, and it's very precious. And annually we do life-saving awards with the fire department, and so we look forward to that secondary opportunity to recognize folks who are a part of this. But thank you for the teamwork, and it was incredible work. Thank you.
And now that leads us into our third presentation, which is our annual fire presentation. And we did this purposefully so that fire would be here and would be able to hear the gratitude from not just the family, but gratitude from the city for all the hard work that both law enforcement and first responders do. So thank you. Chief Rodriguez, who has a great last name, as he said.
Well, good evening, Honorable Mayor Rodriguez and members of the City Council. Felipe Rodriguez, your fire chief. First, I just want to thank you, Mayor Rodriguez, for organizing that event. It's very important for our personnel to see a positive outcome. It's very important for the families, Kim family. Congratulations on surviving and making it. 97%, as was mentioned, don't make it on BFib. It's probably even tighter than that, but it's just a great outcome, and it's really good for our personnel to see the fruits of their labor, all the training, their dedication, the things that they do, and the partnership that we have with the police department as the first responders. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the dispatchers who took that call. They are the first responders. These are your angels who are out there 24/7, 365, providing protection for this community, all of the communities that we serve. But I just want to say thank you. Thank you to those who were on the call. Captain Heilman, job well done. Very good. Takes great leaders to run the crew and make sure that they're there in a timely manner, that they're courteous and they're effective in what they do. So with that, I would like to present our annual report for the last calendar year. And there's going to be a lot of statistics and data and graphs. That's not really what's important. It's the work that they do day in and day out that matters. The personnel who are out there providing the service every single day to this community, that's really what matters. These numbers will quantify it, but it's not that. It's what they do every single day. So there's a lot more that goes behind it. A big thank you to those who worked on the statistics, and a thank you to you for asking for this information to be presented to the community here in Galt. So tonight I'm going to share with you our performance of our first in areas here in Galt. I'm going to focus on the Galt community. Of course, we're consuming this fire, and we provide protection for over 157 square miles and over 221,000 people. But here in this community, serving this 27,133 people that we serve, that's what I'm going to focus on tonight. Here's your two fire stations, stations 45 and 46. This department has been in operation here since 1921, providing service for this community for a long, long time. You'll look at the statistics and the graphs that you see before you. Now focus, if you could focus on the top left graph, that pie chart. We responded to almost 3,600 calls in Galt in the orange that you'll see. We respond to over almost 25,000 calls a year, but a good portion of them are here. About 15% of our calls are here in Galt. The pie chart below that is the breakdown between stations 46 and 45. In orange being 46, about 37% of the calls, and 45 being 63% of the calls. The map on the right shows the two areas for station 46 and 45. You'll notice that the areas cover a lot more than the city limits. They go almost to I-5 and out east, and I believe the city limits are almost all the way to Herald already, but it's growing. But they do cover a large area. The primary calls are in the populated urban area, which is the city of Galt, the city limits. But you do see some of the colors from orange, where it's more populated, turns into yellow, a little bit less populated, and then green, even less people that are in those areas. But we do respond to all of those calls. And I'll break those calls down over the next several slides. But just to paint the picture as to our coverage areas, there are a lot more than just the city limits. About 56 square miles or so is what we cover for this area. The incident types, about 71% are emergency medical services. A top left number of over 2,500 calls are emergency medical. We do respond to service calls, good intent calls, cats and trees, of course, water problems, etc. Some false alarms. We do, pound for pound, Galt holds its own with fires. 82 fires in the last year. The top right number that you see, the $456,000 is what we lost. But we did save over $2.5 million worth of property during that same year. 74% of our calls are emergency calls that we respond to, and 26% are non-emergency calls, what we call code 2 calls, but we don't respond with lights and sirens. But the majority are emergency calls with lights and sirens, and of that, it's all a lot of medical calls with some fires here and there sprinkled in. The units that are dispatched to incidents in Galt, individual units. Although we had almost 3,600 calls, we do send multiple units to each call, and you'll see that there's over 6,000 calls that were from units here in Galt. 398 were from units that came from Elk Grove, and we have command units because we have commanding officers that come out here for fires and other various calls, vehicle accidents that are more complicated type of a vehicle accident, and we'll have command units respond. Total of 6,600 units, individual units that responded over the last year. And when we look at those over 6,000 units individual, we'll look at the Engine 45 being the primary responder that goes to the majority of the calls, followed by Engine 46, Medic 45, Medic 46, and on down the line. So the bulk of them come from those 4 units here in Galt. And when we look at the Elk Grove units that come in to assist, we are, as I mentioned, one department. We respond no matter where. People want to see that blue shirt. So once in a while, they like to see a white shirt, but not normally. They want to see the blue shirts come through the front door and help with whatever it is that they need help with. So out of 398 responses from the Elk Grove units, Medic 71, which is the one in downtown Elk Grove ambulance, was the one that came out here the most, 110 times. There's probably times where an ambulance was unavailable and they did have to respond. After running the numbers, we realized that there are times where an ambulance from Elk Grove will come and a Galt ambulance will step up and say, hey, we're available, we'll take that call. So that does happen. But there are times where ambulances do come from Elk Grove. The next busiest was the truck company. We have one truck company in our district. Those were your fires right there, or vehicle accidents where someone's trapped or things like that where they have to extricate. And the third one I'll highlight is the MIH 71, Mobile Integrated Health. We just opened that up just over a year ago. And that's a unit that we have a nurse practitioner or physician's assistant and a paramedic. And they will respond to calls that might be where somebody really doesn't need to go to the hospital, but they need some care. And that allows them to stay at home and receive the care that they need, prescriptions, maybe some minor medical treatment, and then they're left to recover at their own house and not have to wait at the emergency room or be transported. And that's a really good thing, a new thing that we added within the community, and we're going to continue to provide that service into the next year at least. And on down the line with all of the other units, looks like some medics and our squad that we have as well, and other engines that come out here to assist. Units from Galt that are dispatched out of Galt, we also have to do that because we provide service no matter where. The closest unit goes, and into Elk Grove, 90 times did a unit respond out to Elk Grove. And out of the jurisdiction, which would probably be Harold or Wilton or Walnut Grove, 666 times for a total of 756. Breaking those down, into Elk Grove, there were 90 responses. You see the map there. Those are all of our calls and where they go out to. Medic 46, which is on the east side, likely went out to Wilton or Harold. Medic 45 went out second, and in Engine 46, sometimes they're married up with Medic 46, or they'll go out to assist Wilton with fires, and then followed by Engine 45 and on down the line. The 300s are grass rigs for grass fires. Out of jurisdiction, those are the ones that likely went out to the outlying areas. The previous one was into Elk Grove. These are actually into Harold, Wilton, and Walnut Grove, most likely, and maybe even down into Lodi if they need some help. But Medic 46 is the one that goes out the most. This slide covers the unit hour utilization, and that's the number that we use to track how busy our ambulances are. And you'll see that there are 7 different ambulances that, 8 ambulances now, we just added that extra one. And the ones on the left are Medic 45, 46 that are here in Galt. Our goal is to make sure they're available at least 50% of the time. So once they hit that 50% number, it's time to add another ambulance. We are still sitting at 26 and 25 here. The blue line is during the day, that's the busiest time. So during the day, they're busy about 25, 26% of the time throughout the year. And we really keep a close eye on that number. The orange is in the middle of the night, and then the green is overall. But really, it's that day one where it's the busiest that we really keep a close eye on. And as it approaches that 50% mark, it's probably time to add another ambulance. This is the heat map of what it looks like for the busiest parts of the day. And you'll see more red from about 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., where Galt's still looking pretty good in the 20s, and we keep a close eye on that. It's very important to have the 2 ambulances here for us, even if they're not as busy as the Elk Grove ones. And part of that is to ensure we have an effective response force, enough firefighters here for those fires or for the more critical calls. And part of that is safety for our firefighters, and part of it is safety for the community, that we make sure we have enough personnel here for when that larger call hits. And for that reason, we're going to maintain our 2 ambulances here in Galt, even if they're not as busy as some of the other areas. The last few slides that I have are to cover response times with you. Response times are measured from the time someone calls 911 all the way till the unit arrives. So that's the total response time on the left. Those 4 light blue blocks, the call is received by dispatch, then they process the call with the darker blue block, and then the response unit is notified, And then they have about a minute and a half to get out of the fire station. That's called a turnout time. And then they respond. Our hope is to get them to any location in 4 minutes if possible. And that's called a travel time. And then they arrive. So altogether, we total up that time, and we really, really focus on those last 3 blocks because those are the ones under our control. The dispatch center has the first block, and they run their own times, but we can control how fast we get out of the fire station and how fast somebody gets to a call. We don't want them driving too fast, but where the stations are located, where traffic is able to move through, as we build overpasses and connection points, and we build neighborhoods where there's good connectivity, our units can get there faster. So when we look at those, we break up our map into 2 different colors. The green section is the more populated areas, which we call urban. So you'll see a U next to those units or the stations. And then the R is our rural areas. So less than 1,000 people per square mile would be the R section. When we look at the numbers themselves in the green, you'll see that the turnout times are just about 141, 143 for the 2 fire stations. The travel time, which we want at 4 minutes, we're sitting at almost 5.5 or so, and for a total of just about under 7 minutes for response time. Okay, the rural area, we can add a little bit more because we realize there's no fire station out there, so we can actually give them a 10-minute travel time, and they're hitting them. They're both pretty close to those travel times for 8:46 and the 11:07. When we add it all together, it was just over 7 minutes on average for every location. But most of the city limits are in that green section right there. So we're looking at 6:41 and 6:49 for our response time after we receive the call. Ambulance patient offload times is of importance, and I know that Vice Mayor Reed's not here tonight, but I know he's presenting tonight. We did communicate. But of a very big importance is how long our personnel and the patients stay at a hospital. Medic 45 at the top and Medic 46 at the bottom, they're sitting right at about 30 minutes, almost 29 minutes for 45 and 35 minutes for 46. And that's how long they have to sit on the gurney until they transfer the patient to a nurse or somebody else at the hospital. That was over 72 minutes not too long ago. And a lot of great work by many in the hospitals. A big thank you to them and leaders here in Sacramento to make sure that those numbers went down and our personnel for their patients, to really wait till those came down, and then some state legislation to make sure that those numbers came down as low as possible. The last big slide I have is the staffing levels, just so you're aware of where we're sitting. We're in the western region, the blue section of the map here in California. For the population here of 27,133, we fall in that lowest set of blocks there in the table. 1.01 firefighters per 1,000 is what we should have. So 1 per 1,000 basically. So out of the 27,000, we should really have 27 firefighters. We currently have 30 assigned here in Galt. And that's okay, because even if we're 2.6 over, we do cover some of those county rural areas, the unincorporated areas, so that's okay for us to be a little bit over, and also the protection of our own people in the community here when it matters. So we're sitting pretty good, and we look at that number before we make decisions on adding additional resources. That's a really big number for us. That's the median rate set by the National Fire Protection Association every few years. They last did it in 2020 and updated it in 2022, and those are the latest numbers that we hold for the area. So the key takeaways for today are the response times are meeting or approaching benchmarks across all service areas. The ambulance patient offload time has improved significantly year over year, reflecting strengthened coordination with receiving facilities. Big thank you to all the hospitals. The fire department units stationed in Elk Grove provide additional response capacity into Galt service area, reinforcing the community-wide public safety that we have. Galt stations are well-staffed relative to regional peers, with firefighters at stations 45 and 46 exceeding the NFPA median for the Western region. Fire departments serving similar populations. And the unit hour utilization for medics 45 and 46 remain well below the threshold levels and lower than all Elk Grove medics, indicating reserve availability to meet growing community demand. And although not on here, I just want to say a big thank you to our Public Works Department here. I met with Fritz today as well, and just the work that they have done to really close the gap on the hydrant inspections, just a big deal for us. When Galt and Elk Grove merged back in 2006, 20 years ago, Galt's classification set by the Insurance Service Office was Class 5. Elk Grove's was Class 3 at the time. Today, we're sitting at Class 2, and we barely missed, just a few years ago, being a Class 1 department, a Class 1 water system, which I know they are, and having that available for the residents and the business owners here in Galt. We're going to be reassessed in 2027, and I'm confident that we will make that Class 1. We missed it by 3 points. We've made some additions up in Elk Grove, and we've done some improvements here with the water systems and in Elk Grove as well on inspecting those hydrants on a regular basis. So thank you. I understand and I know that the Public Works Department was invested into with additional staffing to assist with that. Staffing is always great for hydrant inspections, but after what happened at the Palisades fire, it's so important that we remember that the hydrant systems are so important, and you have a great water system here and great staff here. So big thank you to all the Public Works personnel and all the hard work they do and have done to improve that number. And with that, I will answer any questions you may have.
Well, thank you for that presentation. That was very informative. Councilman Pratton.
I don't have any comments other than just thank you for the presentation. It was excellent.
Councilmember Sandu.
No, I don't have any question. I was in the two-way meeting. I already looked at the presentation. My question, quality already give questions. So good job. Thank you.
Sure thing.
Councilmember Farmer.
Well, I guess I get all the questions in.
All right.
That's so.
First, thank you for the presentation. It's always informative because it's, as council members, we do get a lot of people asking us about fire stuff, just various questions. But your presentation I had a couple questions for you. On the first graph, where it's the first in versus station 45 versus 46, it was weird to me, like 63% versus 37. You think there's a reason why that? Why would you explain such a huge difference? Because to me, it seemed like with 46 being over in an area that has a lot more houses on the east side than on the west side, why is it that there's such a huge variance between 45 being the first?
I think it's busier here on the western side. If you look at the map there on the right, you'll see that there's 1,641 of the calls just on that west side alone. So that makes up a good portion of it here near the downtown area. I know we have some senior living facilities as well that have some calls, but it is definitely busier. It's older out here on this side. Trust me, the east side will get busy over the years. It's new right now, and you have probably a lot of young families out on the east side. So the quantity of calls are not going to be as high. As we all age, we need help. We need some 911 services, and as you notice, the 71% of our calls are medical. So a 22-year-old is not likely to call as many times as a 72-year-old, and that's just how it goes. So we're here. We make sure we provide the service, and we understand that it is busier here on the west side.
So you think the fact that we have I forget what it's called now, I always call it Royal Oaks, but it's changed so many hands. But that facility is probably what pushes that number up?
Some, not the majority of that 1,600, but it is up in the over, I think it was between 200 and 300 last time I looked at it.
And then, for us, we can't, everything you showed, we don't have any control over any of that stuff, right? There's nothing that the council can do to change, for the most part, can change the response times or change whatever. All we can do is just, when CSD comes to us and says, hey, we need this or that, we'd like to, then those are the things that we can have a hand in, right? So for us as a council, wanting to know how we can be more helpful, a question that comes to mind is, what do you think is, and maybe, I don't know if you've heard from some of your men that work here in Galt a lot, what would be one of the largest logistical challenges with Galt? Is it, I'm probably sure it's not traffic congestion. Is it just the spread outness of the city, or is it is it like the positioning of the overpasses, trying to get from east to west side over the freeway? What comes to mind, do you think?
I think that's a big one, yeah, for sure. If it ever happens for Walnut to come on over, that will definitely speed up our response times.
Okay.
Last time, I know it's very expensive to invest into something like that, but Really just connectivity and just flow, traffic flow is so important for us to make sure that we can respond quickly and get there in as fast as possible. So as we build neighborhoods, it's very important that the building department, they have a great relationship with our fire prevention division, but that they build neighborhoods with 2 ways in, 2 ways out, and a lot of flow, good traffic flow. It speeds things up. Their speed bumps are okay for certain areas where they're needed, but any large thoroughfare, any arterial or collector should be as clear as possible anytime that we can. And I understand the neighborhoods, like where it's 25 miles an hour. I get that part for the safety of the kids and the families, but those big ones, we need to keep those clear, and we need to make sure that we have good flow for the traffic.
So I have 2 more questions. I thank you for answering this stuff. With that mention of the Walnut overchange, because these are things that, we need to keep in mind when we're making decisions, like when it comes to things like the Walnut interchange, which obviously is a huge deal, and we know, but to know that that has an impact not just for traffic, but for fire response and that kind of thing. My question is, has Carillion Road, since it's became a connector to Bossau and brought that out, I'm just wondering, has that been very helpful to you guys' responses? Because I keep thinking about, how do you guys get from east to west? I mean, you either have to go down Lincoln and then jump over on Summerhorn, which is an old overpass, and that's kind of a tricky one. There's Amador, which is an older one as well. And then you have, or getting on the freeway and going down an exit. I'm wondering if that Carillion, if like Station 45 or whoever is using that C Street overpass and then hitting Carillion to go down into that. I wonder if that's been helpful.
If I can ask our captain, who responds on a daily basis,
Yeah,
to come on up and answer that question on coming on over.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
He's been waiting for this moment for a couple years, and here we are.
Is that a path that you guys use, or has it not really been of much help?
Responding to calls, we haven't used that thoroughfare very much, but returning back to district, so say we run a call on Bossau or in 46's area,
Okay.
coming back to the station, we will use that, and it has been quicker. So
Okay.
I think in a sense it has helped us with response times, like back to our first in.
Okay. And then my last question, which you could probably help with this, and this is just for the public because we hear a lot of critiques about this stuff, is, in your opinion, has any of this C Street project with the new medians and all that been prohibitive to you guys getting to your calls and that kind of thing? In all honesty,
I would say during the busy time of day, yes, just due to traffic and there's nowhere for cars to pull over on the side and us past them. For the most part, I mean, I haven't really experienced a ton of delay, but there's definitely been some there.
Okay.
During high traffic time.
All right. Well, good to know. Thank you. That's all the questions I have. Thanks again for the presentation, and thanks to your men that are here tonight.
You're so
thank you,
welcome. And I just want to take a moment to thank all of our personnel who are here, our battalion chief, our operations chief, and especially my wife, who is sitting in the back, Tracy Rodriguez, another cool last name, who came to support this. But thank you for being here, love.
I do have a couple questions, and I don't even know that you can answer them, but I'll put it out there. I am curious as the impact that skilled nurses facility does have on, CSD is not transferring just for regular transport, right, when they need to just move a patient. You're only doing emergency transport.
That's correct. I mean, if we have to, we will. I've seen those come through, but normally it's for emergency response.
And then and this is where you probably can answer, do they pay an extra impact fee because of the type of facility they are?
No, we treat every facility the same, and we respond to all residents the same with the best of service possible. When something's being constructed, there is an impact fee, but outside of that, we provide service to the entire community, whether you live here or not.
Okay. My other question is, I was kind of curious with in your presentation, you talked about having the physician's assistant and someone else.
Nurse practitioner. Yes.
Yeah, come to some of the calls. I'm curious how insurance deals with that, since generally, is it just a normal ambulance? I mean, it's not a transport, so how does that work?
That's a great question. We are currently just footing the bill for that and providing the service to the community. We're working through legislation and partnerships if we can federally to seek reimbursement. But right now, it's the general fund that's paying for it just through our taxpayers, both on Elk Grove and Galt. We're just providing the service to the community, and we're awarded an additional year through our board action that they're actually voting on it tomorrow, but it's been presented to them already. And I look forward to that outcome for another year of service.
And are they, the physician's assistant and the nurse practitioner, are they on staff, or are they just, is this an occasional thing, or how does
So we have,
ride-alongs?
yeah, we have like a contract with them, and they normally come from Kaiser or others. Confirming, we have others as well. Yes, we do have other hospitals that provide the service, and it's the person that's on contract with us.
Okay.
I have one follow-up question. You maybe think of it. I know you mentioned the big drop in the wait times. It was a big deal last time. I think you presented with how long, your units were having to stay at the hospitals before the patient was technically transferred, and you mentioned that some changes that have recently happened have dropped that number. I'm assuming it's policy changes at the hospitals with how long you whatever. But with that said, it's good to see that improvement, but do you still feel that there's a lot of work to be done? I ask that because if any of us were ever in a situation where we could, try to lobby on that behalf of any policy that would affect those types of things, I would like to know if you feel like there's still a lot more work to be done on that.
Yes, the state number is 30 minutes. That's through legislation. The county of Sacramento's number is 20 minutes. So we're still striving to work towards that. We're at 29 and 34, I believe, the two that I remember. But we're sitting right about 30 minutes consistently now for the last several months, and that's a good thing. But if there's ever any time where you can continue to advocate for that number to be as low as possible, we want to be able to transfer the patient. It's for the patient's best interest to get some care at the hospital, and at the same time release our unit to be available for the next call. Because when we have a Galt unit specifically at Lodi Memorial or up in Kaiser, they're a long ways away from Galt, and we want them here as fast as possible when they're done with that transport.
And is the main reason for that is it just come down to really just staffing at the hospitals and those facilities that they don't take that transfer quicker than 30 minutes?
There's a variety. Sometimes they're full. During COVID times and things like that, they were full. There were no beds upstairs. The throughput was just behind, and they would jam up in the ER. But now that things have calmed down quite a bit, there's a combination of staffing and also throughput, availability at the hospital, the size of the hospitals. Our communities are growing. We have 1.5 million people here in Sacramento, and only so many hospitals. So I'm glad to see the hospitals are being built and they're being expanded, and that really helps the entire system.
Last question, is there any of the facilities you guys do transport to, whether it's Kaiser or you mentioned Memorial, and I'm not sure what other ones there are that you guys actually frequent, but is there one that your guys think that stands out, that they do a good job with quicker transfers than some of the others?
They've all been, the VA does a fantastic job, but.
Which one?
The VA.
Oh, really? Okay.
But the majority of our patients go to Kaiser, South, or Methodist, and they've all been doing a good job.
Okay.
Really working on that number. And that's the important part, is that we continue to partner with them, and that they see that the 911 system is very much dependent upon releasing the units that are there at the hospital, and then it's the best interest for the patients as well.
Well, thank you again, Chief. Appreciate the answers.
Sure thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we need to take public comment on presentations? No? Okay. All right, we'll move along to item H, public comment. Tina.
Under Government Code Section 54954.3, members of the public may address the City Council on non-agenda items. The public comment section is for the City Council to receive comments. Except for brief responses to questions, no discussion or action may be taken on any item that is not listed on the agenda. Please limit comments to a maximum of 5 minutes. Consistent with the City Council procedural guidelines, the mayor reserves the right to shorten the time limit for speakers to ensure the efficient and timely completion of all city business on the agenda. Ken Lee.
Good evening, council members. Well, I'd like to comment on the flea market. I'd like to see more upgrades to the flea market to attract more vendors and customers. Like Stockton's Wilson Way Market, they have upgraded the grounds and the overheads. I'd like to see a top produce row along the west fence, similar to the food court, in a Y shape, so it's only half of it. This way it benefits the produce people and the patrons. This way we have some shade when we're walking down that aisle. And there may be agricultural grants to get them to do that. I'd like to see a certified farmers market section. That way the EBT can match it 1-for-1. They match the value. They used to have it at our flea market, but they don't do that anymore. You have to go all the way up to Foreign Road. I'd like to see more senior and patron safeguards against fly-by-night service companies that come there. I'd like to have them just make placards and business cards at the table so we know who they are. And basically, I'd like to see a state and local business on the service companies. I'd like to see on Tuesday and Wednesday a citywide shuttle service. Many Hispanic older parents rely on their children to drive them around, as well as many seniors that don't drive and want to get out and spend their money. This is money that we're missing. As well, it's healthier for us to buy cheaper produce, and physically walking the flea market is good exercise for the seniors. During my bus rides to and from Lodi, many Hispanics use the bus to come to the flea market, and they go back with produce and everything. I'd like to see a community row alongside the north wall next to the Veterans Park. They have the classic medical scooter club meet there. I'd like to see them use it for veterans, senior complexes, older clubs and other clubs, and maybe an animal shelter adoption there would be nice. I'd like to see a kids cart similar to an ice cream cart, have them sell water and chips, and have the flea market running. This way, the Boys and Girl Scouts and Youth Commission can raise money for their things. Vendors want a more secured lot to park in because their trucks get vandalized in the open lots. It'd be nice if they can put a low-rise cyclone fence around the vendor's lot. That's why you see a lot of vendors won't park there. There have been many upgrades down at the market. They put in fire extinguishers and first aid kits on the carts now, as well as the employees that have the Good Samaritan protection. We need to free up the customer parking lots because there's up to 100 vendors and the employees parking there all day. That's space that doesn't turn over 5 times a day. The outside lots of garbage has been minimized, as well as the inside of the market. It's very clean. And that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Lee.
I'm just going to call Gene Davenport's name in case he's in the lobby. Did you?
I think he wasn't one.
Gene?
Hi there. I'm Gene Davenport. I live in the city. I want to address the things that I feel that were uncalled for at the last meeting, i.e. you cutting us to 2 minutes. I know it wasn't just you. It was a mutual agreed aspect of it and the way it came about, because when, on the agenda item at the beginning of it, it said we can cut time, that you guys could do that to us. Before we even started the public speaking, you stated, you were on the record saying we're going to cut the time limit to 2 minutes, which I thought really was really disingenuous to us as citizens, that we want to come and voice our opinion and what we feel is happening in this city and the projects that are coming forward. I knew that project was a done deal 6 months ago. That's besides the point. We should be allowed to come and voice our opinion, whether you like it or not. That, to me, that is that whole project is a Chamber of Commerce project. You guys are all chamber members. So, I mean, that's what it reeks of to me. That being said, if you would have let everybody talk the full 3 minutes, it would have been 1 hour and 3 minutes long. There was 21 speakers and 21 people didn't show up. A lot of people left. So by taking that and using that as a barometer to who can and cannot speak or for what length of time is disingenuous. We've had city councils where they stayed here listening to the public speakers till midnight. I remember coming in and before you guys, most of you were on before Sean and Paul got on, the city councils would stay till 11, 12 o'clock to listen to what we had to say. So I just feel that you should take that into consideration. You guys ran for an office. You represent the city, but we also have to have honest input. And I couldn't do it in 2 minutes. I was babbling at the end because I was trying to get everything in that I wanted, and I couldn't. I just couldn't. I mean, I get to talk for 5 minutes today. I could stay for a week. But you guys got to start and look at that. I mean, it's just wrong for you guys to do that. This project, I was personally against it. I was against the 76 when that was approved. I don't think we need any more gas stations. If you look at it from that aspect, Galt has about 27,000 people, roughly a little bit more maybe. There's a gas pump for every 300 citizens. That means man, woman, and child. Do we need that many gas pumps in this city? Honestly, that's just, it's overkill, and that's what this project is. I know you're getting an In-N-Out burger. My granddaughter's really excited about that. But, you know, it's not about an In-N-Out, and you're hurting existing businesses. Paul, would you like to have a hotel built right next to yours? You know, I mean, it flies in what we should, the kind of community we are. I thought we were here for each other. Like all the presentations that started this, I think we have the best first responders anywhere in this state. They've been on it since day one. I mean, and we've gone through, what, 3 police chiefs? And every one of them has stepped up. That's just wonderful. And when Consumers Fire Department first started that, when we merged with Elk Grove, there's some growing pains, but it's really a good thing now. They're starting to, you know, figure things out. But I know you guys don't have anything to do about schools, but these developments that come in, they're getting away with not putting schools. My granddaughter, who said she was really excited about the In-N-Out, she also asked, Papa, when are they going to put in another middle school? And you worked on the school boards. I mean, we should have some input to that. I mean, that's ridiculous. We're getting another elementary school, which is great. We have 2 high schools, which is great. We have 1 middle school. That's really wrong for the kids. I mean, sometimes the classes are overcrowded, you know? What's the ratio? So, you know, I just wanted to come back because I felt it was really disingenuous of you guys to come to the decision to cut us to 2 minutes. That's not what your job is to do. Your job is to listen to us. You don't have to agree with us. And I know you didn't agree with me, and I'm okay with that. I mean, I just think we need to have a better open door policy so we can come in and talk about it. And one of you stated about the community, people outside of the community putting input. Well, I remember when Carillion was talking about going down to 2 lanes. Sacramento had a lot of input in that. We didn't listen to it. My time's up. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davenport.
No more.
Okay. All right, moving on to item I, reports by city council members on regional boards, commissions, and committees. Councilmember Pratton.
The only regional that I had was the Air Quality Management District meeting, which was on 28th. Not a whole lot to report. I think the meeting went about an hour and a half, some budget stuff and some different things. The only thing I think that's important, I had touched on this before, is that you know, one of the things that's been discussed a few times is if you look at our air quality in the Sacramento region, it's lower now than it was 25 years ago. So it's very important, you know, that these programs are out there. You know, I'm usually the first one that, you know, squawks when there's mandates and, you know, they do certain things and money goes certain places that, you know, I don't always agree with, but there has been success, and I think that's important to note and to celebrate and make the public aware of. In my next, when I report at the end, I'll talk about some other stuff.
Okay. Councilmember Sandu.
Mayor, nothing to report tonight.
Councilmember Farmer.
Yeah, I actually just wanted to recap our CAST meeting. I know I mentioned the CAST. We've had a council meeting since you and I attended CAST, but I want to just bring up two facts based on the public comment that we just had.
Yeah, thank you for that.
So I think it's important to know that in our CAST meeting where we met with school board officials, that we were told that there is a 132 student deficit coming into the elementary district this year, which means that the elementary district told Councilman Pratt and I that they're not looking at building another school for at least 10 years because they don't have enough students to do that. And also we were told McCaffrey Middle School is only at 75, I think it was 75 or 77% capacity, which is the middle school. And the other part that they talked to us about is how the high school, which I think they just talked about it at their high school board meeting, but they mentioned it to us at CAST, was that their high school district is looking at going out for another bond because they literally don't have enough money to maintain the facilities that they already have. And so they are looking at doing another bond in order to have to pay for maintenance and other things at facilities because they don't collect the money for students. So I thought that's relative information for the people that may be watching the meetings and hearing some of the public comment, because those are great questions and those are great concerns. And I think that some of that information would help answer some of those questions. So,
And if we could point out that those are public meetings.
yeah.
And so there is input between the city and the schools.
Yeah.
And the police department in those meetings, so public wants to attend to those.
Yeah. So that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. I actually attended an official meeting with the Greater Sacramento Economic Council. The director came and spoke with the city manager or assistant city manager. Were you there, Chris? I can't remember. I didn't think so. Assistant city manager and Kristen, is she an associate planner? Principal planner. And they gave their opinions on some of our planning, and it was just an open discussion for the most part. I also attended yesterday a SACOG's Policy and Innovation Committee. We approved a sponsorship policy, which was pretty benign. And then the majority of the meeting was hearing from our federal and state lobbyists, and really to shorten everything, things are looking positive for the transportation funding legislation that SACOG's been working on, both at the state and federal level. The issue with the transportation funding from the federal level is that obviously we are coming into an election year, so there is a good chance that if Congress turns from Republican to Democrat, that all of that legislation, that main bill, that transportation bill that they were working on doesn't necessarily mean it will go away. It just will take a little bit longer because the new majority would need to take lead on it. But it had passed everywhere, every committee it's been in, it has passed almost unanimously. So both sides of the aisle were very happy with it. So it looks like transportation funding will continue. The current one is coming to an end. So this new legislation is trying to continue it. So that's pretty much all that came out of that meeting. All right, we'll move on to item J, information consent calendar. It is recommended that items 1 through 7 be acted on simultaneously unless a separate discussion and or action is requested by a council member. I'll go ahead and read them all right now and then move forward with that. Number 1, receive and file warrants for period ending May 22nd, 2026. Number 2, minutes of the regular meeting of May 19, 2026, and the special meeting of May 21, 2026. Number 3, Galt Landscaping and Lighting District Engineers Reports, intention to levy and collect assessments for fiscal year 2026, 2027, and set public hearings. Number 4, Crystal Way Extension Reimbursement Agreement. Number 5, cancellation of the July 2nd, 2026 and August 4th, 2026 City Council meetings. Number 6, second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2026 rezoning of Dry Creek Oaks project, Dry Creek West project. And number 7, license and access agreement with Mulrooney Auction Company. Would anyone like to pull for discussion any of the consent calendars? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
We do have public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forget. Public comment.
Kenley?
Yes, I'm here to talk on number 7 of Maroney. My experience with Maroney is to use the property, it may bring a big tax boom to Galt when they sell their expensive equipment. If they go online, will that money come to the city as the sales tax? They're very professional, family-run business, generations, and they always clean up their sites and that they conduct the auctions at. They have their own trailers, forklifts, and cleanup crew. And would they be able to conduct live auctions on site like Hussman used to do? Because that's a good place for getting tools, bric-a-bracs, equipment, personal vehicles. Because after all, Hussman was there and they were very successful at the auction. I don't know if that sales tax was coming to Galt when they sold things. As a customer of Maroney's for over 20 years, I love the great deals that they afford. Because I was known as Thornton's $1 bidder, and I used to get a lot of stuff. I filled up 1 acre with all that stuff. And I used to get 30 orange barriers. They used the block traffic for $1 a piece, brand new. And I left them in Thornton to the fire department. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Farmer and seconded by Councilmember Pratton. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Pratton?
Aye.
Councilmember Sandu?
Aye.
Councilmember Farmer?
Aye.
Mayor Rodriguez?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. All right, item K. This is a public hearing, so is it a public hearing for this?
No.
No.
Yes, this is, sorry, because this is a update to our zoning code.
Oh, okay. That's right, we've already kind of been presented it. All right, so we'll go ahead and hear the presentation, the single-family residential objective design standards. Ms. Carloni.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council. The item before you tonight is to introduce an ordinance for Chapter 18 of the Muni Code for residential design standards. Some background here. So following our joint study session in late March, staff took all of the feedback and presented to you tonight the draft version of the design guidelines. The current design guidelines in the municipal code are not objective, so the main point here was to make them clearly objective standards for developers to follow. This comes from many, many months, if not years, of requesting these documents from the Council and Planning Commission. The guidelines are intended only for, the standards, I need to remember, the standards are intended only for single family, attached and detached, and not for multifamily. And as again, we held that study session in March, and most of the, if not all of the feedback is now incorporated in the document. So what is exempt? Accessory dwelling units, junior ADUs, any multifamily development, condo or apartment, and mixed-use developments are exempt from these codes. And again, the goal behind that is staff works directly with those types of developers because they are uses we want to see brought to Galt, and we don't want to create any sort of barrier towards that development. So a lot of this will look familiar from our March study session, but here the first key components of the standards are massing and articulation. So here, what we're looking at doing with the guidelines, and you'll see everything in your packet, is it's really a menu type of option. So developers can choose 2 or 3 of the options to use for development. And again, that will create a little bit of variety and good architecture. So not every home has to follow the exact same types of architecture. So for massing and articulation, there are 6 options to choose from. That includes variation in color, material, railings, trim, decorative entryways, things like that. We've included enhanced rear end design standards to ensure that all sides of a home truly are detailed rather than just a straight stucco wall. We are adding additional features to walls that do not have doors or windows, and that would include the same types of designs on the front of a home. So again, colors, materials, things to help accentuate that very bland wall that we don't want to see, including massing breaks. So the whole side of a home cannot just be one standard plane. It would have a variety of massing there. And requiring that no more than 3 homes on the same block are the same color and design. So again, trying to include more architectural variety and design in a neighborhood. Some additional components of the standards are adding requirements for windows, so to recess or to add trim to windows to again give more detail to the architecture of the home. For doorways, we did increase the minimum door width to 36 inches. We encouraged the use of side lights or transoms or double doors in development as well. For roofs, we are requiring at least 2 roof spans, seen like in the picture here, not just one large roof line that doesn't give any sort of massing or articulation break. And also requiring that roof lines extend past the wall plane to 12 inches. So it gives a little more character to have that roof overhang. For materials, we are requiring at least 2 materials on the front, requiring that the materials wrap the corners to at least the fence plane or 4 feet, whatever is further. And also, we have clear definitions of what materials are allowed and not allowed now in the standards. And that is one thing that the Planning Commission did make a modification to, which I'll touch later, is adding additional materials that are allowed versus prohibited. For garages, we have extended the requirement to garages. The garage door itself cannot exceed more than 50% of the front facade. So again, the goal here is to reduce the dominance of the garage, create living space to the side of the garage door. Requiring 10 feet of living space adjacent to that garage as well. So again, not just the garage and then the front door, right? We want to create that additional width to give the home more character to the front. We are requiring 8-foot tall garage doors. That came out of our study session. And lighting on both sides of the garage door is required, whether that's a single, a double, or a 3-car garage. They'll have lights on all sides. For the driveways, based off our study session, we increased the width of the driveway, to 20 feet for a 2-car garage, 10 feet for a single-car garage, and then if you have a 3-car or more, the width of the driveway would just be 2 feet past the garage door width. So that gives more space for cars to actually park in the driveway. Continuing on to subdivision design. For new infill subdivisions, again, we modify this here. All exterior perimeter lots that are adjacent to an existing single-story home may not exceed single story. So previously we had just a blanket statement, everything must be single story if it backed to a single story neighborhood. But here we've modified that down to if the home is abutting or adjacent to a single story, that new home must be a single story. So again, it gives a little more flexibility for developers to have single and double story along the perimeter. In new artificial subdivisions, we also added this in that there shall be no artificial grade separation between the existing neighborhood and the new infill subdivision. So this came based on a recent project where there was a quite tall grade separation. So again, here, the goal is to make sure that no new neighborhood is looming over the existing neighborhood. For additions and alterations, this was an existing code section that we left pretty much the same, except we tried to just objectify what was already in there. So the one thing that was added in was if you are looking to add a second story onto an existing home, that the second story shall not exceed 50% of the first floor area. And that's only in predominantly single-story neighborhoods, and that's defined in the standards. So that, again, is to basically reduce a very large two-story from going up in a predominantly single-story neighborhood. When it comes to attached single-family homes, known as townhomes, we've added a couple of standards here to encourage good design. One is limiting the amount of units per row to 6 and not having long lines of townhomes, preferring walk-up versus stacked townhomes, and stepping back any heights of townhomes that are greater than 3 stories to, again, keep the massing scaled back, because most development in Galt is not over 2 stories. For parking, just requiring no parking in the front, again, trying to hide that parking in the back, bring the units to the street, increase that pedestrian environment for those on the street. And with trash and recycling, just making sure all of the refuse bins are screened and landscaped as much as possible with the ability to still access them. So one thing that's been added also to the standards are architectural integrity standards, if you will. These are 5 different styles that we've added into the standards to help guide developers on how to design and build a home within a certain style. This is not going to be like a checklist. It's really meant to be a guide. So they don't have to meet every single component of each style based on what they're providing, but it's encouraging them to use these types of roof pitches, these types of pillars, these types of front entryways based on the style that they're providing. And there are images in the standards as well for them to refer to. So the Planning Commission heard this item in May. At their meeting, they approved it 5-0 with the following modifications. One, like I mentioned, they modified some of the materials. So they wanted to add in the use of styrofoam and faux masonry to development. So that went from prohibited to allowed. They wanted to remove the requirement in setting back garages. So the standards now have a 10-foot setback for garage doors. Again, we want to encourage that the front of the home be more pedestrian focused. So that language was modified to only half of homes in a new development have to have that setback. So again, it allows flexibility for that garage door setback. And then there was also previously language about 4 second-story additions that I mentioned, having a setback of 5 feet to basically not only have your second story be smaller than the ground floor, but also be set back. So it's not shadowing or creating privacy concerns. They recommended to strike that from the standards. So that has been removed for now. And so with that, staff's recommendation tonight is to introduce the ordinance amending Galt Municipal Code Chapter 18 for the residential design standards. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. Council, do you have any questions for right now?
Yeah, I'll kick it off. I have the one. So tell me more about the reintroduction of the different materials that you talked about, the foam. So that was not originally in there, but the Planning Commission wanted that to be added back in. What were those?
So what we did, let me find the exact page for you here. We have a table now in the standards that is on page 5 of the standards. It has exterior building material and roof material that's allowed and prohibited. Previously, we had styrofoam and faux masonry on the prohibited, but the Planning Commission recommended that be an allowed material. It is very commonly used these days, and removing that product can cause extra cost for development. So they recommended moving that to the allowed, and so you'll see that in the allowed column now in the standards.
Okay. And then you mentioned on the garages, when you were reading it, you said garage doors cannot exceed 50%, but you meant to say it's just worded as garage in general, not the actual door, but the garage itself. What that means, I'm just trying to understand. So you're saying that the garage is, whether it's two-car garage or three-car garage, whatever the garage is, how much space of the front facade of the house that encompasses, it cannot exceed 50% of the entire facade of the house?
Correct.
Correct? Okay. The one thing I'm not seeing here, which I thought we were all probably in agreement on at the workshop, but I'm not seeing it in here at all, was the talk about not allowing two-story homes to have a flat side on more than one side. We talked about doing something they had to have something on three sides and they can only leave one. Meaning if you have a two-story house that you can't have, because like, for example, I went over to one of the subdivisions recently and on a two-story house, they had a roof line on the front, but the two sides were straight up with nothing and the back was straight up. And it creates the look of these boxes. And that's something that we spent a lot of time on talking about. I thought that was one of my most favorite things, at least for me, when we were talking about changes, was requiring them to do what I would call, where the house would come up and there would be a roof line and then you go to the second story.
Right.
You see a lot of that in like the streets where I used to live over in the bird streets, like over on Wren and Sparrow and stuff. Their designs, a lot of those are two stories. They have they don't have flat sides that go all the way up. They have, they have setbacks for the upstairs, and it really makes the houses look so much better on a two-story than what they build now, where they're just square boxes.
Right.
So that's something I'm really concerned about that I would like to see implemented of some sort.
Yeah, so that is included. That's
Yes.
highlighted on page 2.
Okay.
And so it talks about buildings shall have massing breaks every 25 feet. So really, that's not allowing a home.
Oh, that's what massing breaks is, okay.
to have just a solid wall. It's requiring whether it's a setback, a recess, a structural bay, and I believe we will allow rear patio covers also to count for that
Okay.
modification as well. So that is incorporated.
So massing breaks refers to that. That's what that
Correct.
is. Okay. And then the other one is something that's kind of interesting. I don't have any problem with it, but when it talks about the facade variation, no more than 3 houses that are the same design and color. It says design/color. So which is it? Is it like, so if you have a subdivision that has 5 different floor plans, for example, they can't have more than, and say floor plan 1 is the smallest, they can't have more than 3 of that particular floor plan on the entire block?
So what they typically do is, let's say they have 3 models, each model has 4 color schemes. So they can't have the same model with
So
color
it has the model
scheme.
and the same color,
Exactly.
not necessarily the same model. Okay, that's why I was confused on. Okay. That's all I have at the moment. I'll let other council members have questions, but looking this over. Thanks.
Councilmember Sandu?
Thank you, Mayor. Jenny Cardoni, thank you for, bringing that's a lot of work. And I believe that objective design we're doing, another word is quality of life, because it can be, the new house is can build is the appearance, right? It can be good appearance, and it's also can be a protection of the community. And I agree with last time when we was with planning commission, there's a lot of changes. And since we was last meeting, there is only what changes? Just only one change is what Council Member Sean asking, or if you remember the planning commission, did they add anything else the last meeting we discussed?
There were quite a bit of changes. I believe everything that the commission and the council requested at that study session was incorporated. The driveway width, the door heights, the artificial grade separation. There's a variety of them, and they were all incorporated. Everything that was agreed upon was incorporated.
All right, and thanks a lot for that. And just for the public clearance, one thing, whatever we're doing, the objective standard, are we following or complying with the state law, or there is anything is a green kind of we are not complying with the state law?
We are complying with state law with these standards. This meets housing element program requirements and state law requirements. So developments are required now to follow the objective design standards for those that are part of the single family homes. if a developer wants to stray from these standards, they have to request a formal variance, and they would then go through a standard hearing process with the Planning Commission. And so they have that option. But for those developments that meet the standards, that limits our ability to deny a project.
Thank you. And the last thing, like in affordability, in your opinion, like for the public, myself, this is my opinion, I don't think so that much can be a full affordability difference. But your opinion is affordability with the developer can be a big difference with the cost, or just maybe a minor, or can you, just for the public record?
Yeah, I don't think that these standards will cause a substantial change in prices at all. The standards are commonplace in most cities in California nowadays. So there might be a small change based on material type or requiring certain size doors and windows, but overall the affordability will not be changed with the standards.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Pratton.
Yeah, just wanted to thank Director Carloni for bringing this so quickly to us, you know, wrapping it up and Planning Commission putting it together. I know, you know, many meetings that I've been to, the Planning Commission, the lighting on both sides of the garage door, I think we could officially call that the Jones design standard, because that would never pass if he was sitting up there he would always bring that up. So I think this will help not only your staff, but the Planning Commission to be able to get things done. So I'm full support.
I have a few questions, and I'm really not trying to be silly with this one, but in the that chart that we went to, I can't remember what it was titled, but the materials that they can use and they cannot use.
Yeah.
They expressly prohibited, it says bright colored tile is bright colored objective. I mean, what I think is bright might not be, I don't know. Anyway, that was just one of the things that stuck out, mainly because I had a neighbor at one point that had, and I kid you not, Pepto-Bismol house on the bottom end of it. They finally changed it. But anyway, so that was just one of.
Yeah, that's a good comment. That is for roofing materials specifically, so we can tweak that to be potentially like non-earth tone or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and again, because my neighborhood probably isn't the best example, but I have 3 backyard neighbors because our fence lines, our property lines don't line up. So if you have a new development coming in, backing up to it, they don't necessarily have the same borders or, lot lines. So how does that, if a second-story house wants to be built next to all 3 or the 2 properties that they're touching would have to be 2-story in order for them to build a 2-story, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Any home that they're abutting to would, or adjacent to.
Okay. Because I've been hearing a lot of complaints from the senior developments where the garbage bins are too big to get through the side gates. Did we have any discussion making sure that those side gates are large enough for those bins to come through?
We didn't clarify the size of the gate, but my understanding is that the standard size of the bin is meant to fit through a standard, I believe 3-foot wide gate. What we did add is a requirement for a concrete pad on the side yard where the refuse containers can sit. So they don't have to be stored far away. So that will help a little bit. But no, we didn't clarify the size of the gate.
But if correct me if I'm wrong, don't we have an ordinance that our refuse containers have to be behind
I was just going to ask that.
a
Correct.
fence or something?
It's a concrete pad behind the fence in the side yard. It would not be visible
gotcha.
from the street.
Okay, gotcha. But if it's in the side yard, that gate has to be wide enough for it to get out, which
Right.
is part of the seniors' complaints.
Right.
Is that anyway, which is why they want the smaller bins.
Yeah.
And then this is just curious, we're changing the wording or the requirement that the front doors have to be 3 feet wide. What was our requirement before?
That's a good question. I'm not sure off the top of my head what it was before. I believe that's a fairly standard door, but we're just making it very obviously clear
Okay.
that it must be that wide.
Because I was trying to figure out now, how did you get your refrigerator in, let alone the refuse going out the other way? So, and I know Councilmember Sandy touched on this with the pricing, but do you think that with these new standards, it will help increase or decrease prospective builders to come into Galt?
That's a little hard to say. The developers have not been active, as you can see tonight, in this process, and I think they're just used to it by now, to be honest. Like I mentioned, most cities have or are working on this process. I think they're just used to this new California way of doing things. So I personally don't think it'll hinder development. They're still looking to make money, and there's still land in Galt to develop, so I don't think this is going to make a difference.
Okay. All right, if we don't have any other questions, I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing at, what time is it? 7:35. Do we have any public comment?
No.
Any of the vast audience want to speak?
I think it's kind of ironic that we hear so much chatter from the community on, look at those houses that just got built, they're so ugly, who would live there, blah, blah, blah. And we've spent so much time with the planning commission and workshops, and the staff has spent so much time on this, and we've been pushing this as a council to really do something and change put these design centers in so that houses can look different. And we literally have one person sitting in the audience. The apathy from the community on sometimes just baffles me sometimes. I don't know. But
Maybe we should start putting our council meetings online, on Facebook.
no.
We would get participation probably, or at least.
Just hold on
heckles.
to the next council
Yeah,
item.
yeah. All right, so seeing no public comment, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:36. Thank you for your comment, because then that made me have a different time. All right, so I will entertain or is there any other discussion from council?
Just one last comment. I want to say that I do, your comment about the concern whether or not the developers want to build. Personally, I think this is a long time coming. It's been pretty, I don't know the word for it, but it's disappointing, I guess, when you see a builder build a certain product in another town and the same builder's here, and I feel like the product that they're building in another city looks so much nicer than ours. And it's basically because they don't have to. So my thought on what you said is if they don't want to abide by our standards, then they can build somewhere else, and I'm not going to lose any sleep over it at all, because, this isn't, we're not the bottom of the barrel community. We want our community to be nice. And I think there's certain expectations that we're setting here by doing this. It's a long time coming. I'm glad we're doing it finally.
All right, I will entertain a motion.
So moved, as presented.
Second.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Farmer and seconded by Councilmember Sandu. Roll call, please.
Councilmember, Pratton?
Aye.
Councilmember Sandu?
Aye.
Councilmember Farmer?
Aye.
Mayor Rodriguez?
Aye. Motion passes 4-0, as well as the other one before when I said 5-0, sorry. All right, let's go ahead and move on to agenda item L, regular calendar, City Attorney's Office.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and City Council. This item is before you because state law requires this to not be on the consent calendar. Otherwise, this probably should be a consent calendar item. Just want to make that clear. SB 707 is a new law that requires, it's billed as the Brown Act Modernization Bill. It requires several updates to how public agencies do handle meetings under the Brown Act, as well as outreach and notification requirements. One of the requirements is to require for certain eligible legislative bodies, which this city council is one of them, notably not the committees and commissions, however. What I'm going to be speaking of today, right now, going forward, only applies to the city council meetings. The city council is an eligible legislative body because it is the governing body for a city and a county that has over 600,000 people. So even though our city itself doesn't meet the threshold, because cities on their own have to have over 30,000 people, if you are a city that's in a county with over 600, you are an eligible legislative body, which means for our purposes tonight that you have to now, starting July 1, 2026, allow for remote participation at all meetings. So essentially what it does is it requires us to do now what we did during COVID, which is allow Zoom participation, for example. One of the other requirements that goes along with that is ensuring that the agencies and the cities have adopted a policy that says this is what we are going to do or not and not do in the event that there is a technological disconnection. From the city's side, from the city's transmission, if obviously somebody doesn't pay their Comcast bill and they lose internet, that's not a city problem. If somebody's has bad IT service provider at their work, of course, which we don't have here, that's their problem, not ours. But anything that goes out, that's going to be a problem, and we have to make sure we do certain things to try to remedy it before we either continue the meeting or shut the meeting down. That's essentially what this policy does. It states that in the event of a technological disconnection from our end, from the sending end, and somebody who is trying to, for example, participate remotely through Zoom, it gets disconnected or there's no internet service coming out of the building, whatever, what have you, we have to endeavor to try to fix it for at least 1 hour, and that's state law. After that hour, if it hasn't been fixed by then, obviously if it gets fixed before then, we can restart right away. If it doesn't start after an hour, we can do one of three things. We can adjourn the meeting, we can continue the meeting without the Zoom capabilities, but we have to make certain findings that essentially we tried to fix it, we weren't able to fix it, and then we can go back on the record. And that's all going to be in the policy. Or we could, at the hour, you can keep trying to fix it. So those are really only three options. I think what the legislator wants to do is avoid the situation where people it disconnects and they go, oops, oh well, and they give it 1 minute and they go to, not allowing the public to participate remotely. So that's essentially the long and short of the policy. It specifies, it has some definitions for some of the terms. You technically allow members of the public to participate in one of two ways. One is through an audio-visual platform like Zoom. The other one is audio only through like a phone system. I think Tina can speak to some of the practicalities of that, but that's essentially the gist of it. And then we have one section at the end of the policy, although not strictly required by SB 707, anticipating if we have any issues in terms of disruptions coming from outside on Zoom, how the council can try to navigate those things in terms of warning the people that are disrupting the meeting to stop, and if not, we can remove them from the meeting or eventually shut off the service if necessary, but it has to be for actual disruptions, not just for saying things that the city we may find offensive. As long as it has some relationship to the city of Galt's business, even if it's kind of a weak or relatively attenuated connection, it's going to be allowed due to First Amendment principles. But if they're disrupting and they're interrupting the meeting and they're going past their time, those kinds of things that actually interfere with us to do our business, we have a little bit of opportunity to deal with that, and that's in the policy. Obviously, that's why the first meeting in July is canceled, because it's going to give staff more opportunity to test out this technology. And so hopefully by the second meeting, the third Tuesday in July, which will be our first meeting since SB 707 has went into effect, we'll have all of those kinks worked out and we'll be ready to go. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. But this policy is pretty, it parrots state law pretty closely. It doesn't break a ton of new ground.
Thank you for that. Council, any questions?
Yeah, so Frank, so I know we had some incidents during COVID when we had the call-ins. We had callers calling in and, you know, they were trying to loosely tie it to Galt, saying, you know, well, here in Galt we have blah, 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 and they were spouting racial slurs and all kinds of stuff, right? So we would not have the right to cut things like that off then, right?
Yeah, that's still going to be something that we're going to have to just deal with.
This
But
very much.
if I do recall in that one particular instance that I remember, the speaker was going past their time and they were interrupting the meeting when we were moving on from public comment. So in that instance, we would have recourse to shut them down, because at that point they are actually disrupting.
Okay. So my question is the staff, and maybe Rodney can jump in on this, I'm sure you guys have discussed this already. Are you guys leaning towards doing the Zoom, or are you leaning towards just doing a phone call type scenario?
You want me? Sorry.
Or somebody, I'm sorry, Tina, I didn't know.
That's okay.
I don't think we've come to a final conclusion, but I think Zoom seems to be the standard.
Okay.
We know that's already been set up and working in the past. We haven't retested it recently, but I think that's the standard that most cities are looking at that I've seen.
Do you think, Frank, could be I'm sure there could be an instance, but hypothetically, where someone gets dropped off or something happens and they try to blame the city, is like, oh, they cut me off, and really, in fact, we don't really know if it was on their end or our end. How do we handle stuff like that?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, and that's the kind of thing that is problematic with this legislation. It leaves those kinds of arguments up for debate.
Well,
so I don't know. It's going to depend. I'm obviously not an IT person, but I'm hoping that we would be able to come up with good reasons to explain why it was working. I mean, certainly if it's working for other people.
That's true. I was saying maybe the defense league, well, there's 4 people in the queue, you know, they didn't get dropped off,
Right.
so obviously it wasn't on our side or something.
Right.
Yeah, you know, on one side you look at this and you think it's transparency and maybe it'll provoke people to be more involved, because clearly, as you can see by the audience, people are very excited about what's going on in the city. So maybe that will provide people with more participation. On the flip side, I feel like, where are we ever going to see people in the audience again at this point? Because it's just so convenient to be at home on your computer. And look, this very much, I am personally highly concerned about that when you are on Zoom and you can make up whatever name, like we saw that before, right? This very much reminds me of when social media started adding the anonymous posting type thing. It was just really bad for the whole concept, because you have anonymity, right? So you can make up whatever name on Zoom, you can get on there, you can say whatever you want, and you're not standing at the podium being accountable for your words. So for that reason, I'm highly concerned about this. I know we can't do anything about it because it's a law we have to follow, but I just think this is one of those things, I think, where you had some people make this decision at the higher level and they just didn't think it through. I think it's bad. It's going to be real bad. But
yeah, I will say, and looking at this bill, I'm part of the League of Cities Brown Act Committee, and so I've spent all of 2025 discussing it and debating it and trying to get our lobbyists to make the bill better or get rid of it, frankly. And this is the best version of the bill we were able to get, which isn't very good for cities, because it creates there's a lot of imprecision in the law as drafted. As lawyers, there are things that we don't like about the law. Could be drafted better. But one thing that I think you'd appreciate is there's a state analog to the Brown Act. It's called the Bagley-Keene Act that applies to state bodies. Ironically, they opted out of this. So they don't want to be subject to the transparency that they want local agencies. Ironically, there are commissions and committees of the state where they apply to the whole state. So if anywhere you would think you would want remote participation, it would be if a commission is headquartered in San Diego, for example, you would want people in Northern California to be able to attend remotely. But for smaller agencies, smaller cities, it's actually easier to get there in person. So there's just something about it that feels a little bit disingenuous, just from the legislative history of it.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it there.
But I can say too that we do have, I know personally of a couple people who are very active in watching the council meetings. They don't, and these are people that are disabled, and a couple that are not able to attend without great difficulty. So I do think if there's any silver lining and any plus side, I think it would be something like that where you can get people who are not able to attend would now be able to. So there's that.
Yep.
That's all I have.
Councilmember Sandu?
Yeah, I just have the comment. I know this Senate bill, we have to follow it. And I know why they did it. Is the bottom line is more transparency. But always when the people can be out there, they can abuse the system. So if there is reasonable, some people, they cannot attend the meeting really due to different region. And that's the why I believing in, they went through that bill. But it can be, some people can abuse the system. Same thing on the Facebook, the other media. So I believe as a council, we have to deal with whatever we have to do. And thank you. I think we have no choice. We have to adopt on this resolution.
Councilmember Pratton?
Lots of thoughts, no comments. Moving on.
Well, I'm not going to move real quick, but it brought up a couple questions. What is the penalty if we say, someone wanted to challenge us that we didn't wait the full hour to try to fix things and then restarted the meeting, or what are the penalties?
That's a good question. I think that you would have the ability under 54960.1 to, if any action was taken prior to us exhausting that time, it'd probably be subject to a cure and correct challenge. So in other words, we get a challenge to make us reverse or do our action again.
Redo it.
Yeah.
And there's a limited time where they can file that, correct?
They have 90 days.
Oh, it's a full 90 days.
To make a cure and correct challenge.
Okay.
And then we have 30 days to respond to that.
Okay. When using Zoom, since it does both video and audio, we're not obligated to display the video of them, correct?
Correct. Yes, correct. They arguably aren't required to be able to have to see the council in real time, although there's a debate because of the imprecision of the language. But for us, it's moot anyways because we have the live streaming through Metro Cable and whatnot. But yeah, we're not required to show anyone that appears remotely.
And this doesn't affect, I know during the pandemic, I don't know, and then after when we were still doing this, we were actually reading written comments. We don't have to do that?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, this doesn't change that at all.
Okay. Well, I think that's, other than, I think, it's great that legislators want to make rules, but it's frustrating when they don't follow their own rules, and it's frustrating when they don't provide a proper way to make it work either. So anyway, so good luck, Rodney and Tina, because this is going to be interesting. All right, I will entertain a motion. Or not. All right, I'll move the approval of the resolution adopting policy on disruption of telephonic and internet service during meetings in accordance with Senate Bill 707. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. So moved by the mayor and seconded by Councilmember Sandu. Roll call.
Councilmember Pratton?
Aye.
Councilmember Sandu?
Aye.
Councilmember Farmer?
Aye.
Mayor Rodriguez?
Aye. Passes 4-0. All right, with that, is there any communication?
None.
And do you have a city clerk's report?
No.
Comments by staff?
Parks and Rec Director Armando Solis.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. For those of you who attended our ribbon cutting for our our slide. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I've heard nothing but good reviews about it, and I'm glad that you didn't get hurt, Mayor Rodriguez. So it was very brave of you to go down. So I wanted to remind you of 3 events that are coming up before the next council meeting. Our Saturday market is this Saturday, June 6th. Movies in the parks start again, and that'll be Friday, June 12th at Veterans Field. And concerts on C Street will start Saturday, June 13th. And we're blocking off the street this year between Lincoln and Maple on C. Our stage will actually be on C Street. And that's it.
And that's it, no further comments.
All right. Comments by city council members, future agenda items. Councilmember Pratton.
No future agenda items. I did attend a few other things. We had on May 20th, State of the City address. So that was well done by our mayor. 523, the water slide event, I did attend. I did not go down the slide. Left that to the mayor and vice mayor. They did a great job. May 27th, the dedication service that the police department put on was excellent. Well attended, had some media there. Well done. Then that same evening, we had a safety action and bicycle transportation plan meeting. So it was the first of 3. Pretty good attendance. I hope the next one will get even more attendance. I think it went very well. And then earlier today, I met with the Sacramento Air Quality Management District, brought some representation to town, and we sat with our Community Development Director Carloni, Principal Planner Bitts, and Assistant City Manager Mendez for a discussion on air quality and some of the monies that they have and some projects upcoming for us where maybe there's some things that they can do for us. One of the, doing covers with solar on it, some of those things can go right into plug-ins and stuff like that. So staff has some ideas, and I think we'll work with them to try to come up with some projects, we hope, in the near future. So it was a good meeting. That's all I got.
Great. Councilmember Sandu.
Thank you. I also attended a few events. The first one, I attended the ribbon cutting ceremony, the new opening city's water slide. Thank you, Armando. You're hardworking, especially all the staff working hard on this project. And I also attend the ribbon cutting ceremony with some other council member, I think mayor and vice mayor. And there's a new sandwich gallery in the Raleigh Shopping Center. And it was a great to see new business opening in the door, investment in this our community. And I also attended with the mayor and the other council member Memorial Celebration Day. And thank you for the staff, and thank you for the public comment. And that's all, Mayor.
Councilmember Farmer.
Yeah, I just want to say, I apologize. First of all, I'm sorry I did not make the ribbon cutting. I was actually out of town on Saturday, trying to take advantage of a little time to get out of town on a holiday weekend. So I wish I could have been there, so I'm sorry about that. And also same thing for the gray wall. Saw I wasn't able to attend. That was due to work. Also State of the City, I wasn't able to attend due to work. It's tough being a business owner, I'm telling you. So there's a lot of things. So I wish I could have been to those things. But I did attend the Galt Cemetery Memorial Day festivities on Memorial Day, and I was asked to speak out there, and I did, and I was honored to do that. And it was was very well attended as usual, and so I want to thank them for doing that every year to honor our fallen soldiers on Memorial Day. As far as anything future, I don't think I have anything. So thanks to staff for your reports tonight. Thanks for the audience for showing up and showing their support. Mr. Lee, that goes to you, I guess. You're the only one here. That's all I have, Ms. Mayor.
I too attended, it seems like we had a lot going on these last few weeks. I attended the State of the City. Staff did a fabulous job presenting, so thank you for the presentation, and all staff I know had to come together to put that together. Attended the water slide ribbon cutting. Probably a huge thank you to Parks and Rec, huge thank you to Public Works, all the everybody who was behind the scenes on that. It was kind of neat. We had it was a slide designer, right, that came, and then obviously our engineer was there, and so that was great for them to be able to see. And a huge shout out to Genesis for not putting the tail end of that video of me online. So, and fortunately, there were people there that ended up sending me that video, and I'm like, great. Thanks. But it was great, and it's a fun slide. Highly recommend it for anybody watching. Get your family members out there. It's great. Also attended the new business ribbon cutting at Kelly Ray's. Kind of an interesting thing about that one, it's their flagship franchise. So Galt has the first one, so that's pretty exciting that they're investing in and trusting Galt with that. So that's just it says a lot about Galt. So the Memorial Day event was very moving. Councilmember Farmer gave a very nice speech. It was a great event. It was great to see all of the members of the city out there, the residents supporting their loved ones and those who have been lost. Went to the community safety workshop as well, and there was, I don't know, 10, 15 people there. I was glad that there was that many people there. We'll put that, but it would be nice if the next.
It was more than there was here.
Yes, yeah, so maybe that, we didn't have enough entertainment here. Yeah, and it was very informative. They had us take a survey and to try to get information on where we thought that there were safety concerns, so. Also attended the Chamber Awards night Friday, and that was really nice to see some of our local businesses receive some recognition for their participation in the community and Business of the Year, and so that was great. And I'll put it out there publicly, the Business of the Year went to Papa's and Wings, which I think is very well deserved and was very nice. Thank you to staff for all of your input and all of your staff reports. You guys work hard. So we really appreciate that. Offline before you leave, I have a comment. I don't want, it doesn't need to go public. But please don't leave until I talk to you, Armando. For a future agenda item, I would like to possibly bring back, and probably should be at our next one, maybe addressing our public speaking time. Now that we have the possibility of doubling the opportunity for public speakers, and I'm saying this even though Mr. Davenport brought up that he did not appreciate being, having his time cut a little bit. I'm concerned that we could be really doubling our time. And since this is a business meeting, I really feel like we need to listen to our constituents, but we also need to get our business done. And coming from, having sat in not just city council meetings for the last 20 years, but in school board meetings, I literally sat in the audience at a high school board meeting until almost 2 o'clock in the morning. And I can tell you right now, not that they made bad decisions, but you're not hearing. You're not really calculating everything. And I think it's worth us actually discussing, maybe putting it back down to 3, because public speaking for city council was at 3 minutes until about maybe 10 years ago. I just think it's more productive. It will help people to focus more on what they're actually saying. And makes it so that we can focus on what they're saying. I think it was Councilmember Farmer I don't even know that he remembers this years ago, there was some study that shows that people now have the attention span of a goldfish, which was like 30 seconds or something, I can't remember. So I feel like it's something worthy for us to discuss, and in that, whether we shorten the speaker time and/or consider, and I think the high school board did this, topics were limited on the time that were spent on it for public comment. So I just think we're going to need to try to get some control of our time here to do the city business. So if
Well, I would support bringing that back for a discussion, so.
I would support that and comment on it.
okay, so if we could bring that back, that would be great. All right, anything else?